Part 76. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 753. Yi Xuanhuan stretched out his finger, pointed at Zhang Zizai, and said, let me ask you, you knew clearly that the tornado was coming, why didn't you warn him? Did you let the storm sweep Yanqing away on purpose? Only then did Qi Lian and the others realize that this was aimed at Zhang Zizai. The storm came so suddenly. It's good to be able to avoid it. Who can remind me? The requirements are too high, Lan Kaija said, and he realized that there was no need to have a conflict with Bai Yunjing and the others at this time. I'm not talking to you, so there's no need for you to interrupt. Yi Xuanhuan glanced at Lan Kexu indifferently. He and Bai Yunjing looked at each other, as if asking for his consent, and then waited for Zhang Zizai to say, this matter, if you don't give a satisfactory explanation, I will have to settle the score for Yanqing. Forget it, Zhang Zizai said in astonishment, I have already seen that you are targeting me, what excuse are you making, coward? Anyway, you know that there is a god to guide you, so you are not so anxious to find Yingying, just take advantage of her. Why don't you come and mess with me? What he said was beyond Yi's Hongai Yuan's medical treatment. He didn't expect Zhang Zizai to be so clear in his heart. The key is that he knew it and still acted so unscrupulously, which meant he didn't take people seriously. I'm not targeting you, but you, a man from the mountains, dare to insult me. It seems you are really confident, Yi Xuanhuan said with a gloomy expression. That's not true. I don't have the strength to deal with your master, but I can still handle a dog, Zhang Zizai said with a smile. When these words were said, Qi Lian and the others were even more shocked. Yi Xuanhuan was the son of a general under Bai Yunjing's father. He had great vision and great talent. Bai Yunjing treated him as a brother. He was really not as good as Zhang Zizai. As a person of status, use the word puppy to describe him. You are arrogant and insult my brother like this. Not even Yingying can save you, a crazy and brainless person, Bai Yunjing said gloomily and winked at Yi Xuanhuan. Yi Xuanhuan had already lost his mind. With Bai Yunjing's permission, and everyone heard how arrogant Zhang Zizai's words were, he took action without saying a word, and the whole group had already been killed. His totem is of course a god-level totem, called the Zhongtianwuji Demon Vine Totem. When it activates the power of the source of heaven and the characteristics of the totem, the power of the source of heaven sweeps out for a while, condensing a large amount of power of heaven and earth, and forming a wave on his body. After gathering thousands of black magic vines, he directly turned into a being like a 1,000-legged spider. Each black magic vine contained terrifying power. At this moment, it suddenly broke out, densely packed, and bombarded Zhang Zizai. Die. Judging from his rough fighting style, it was clear that he wanted to teach Zhang Zizai a permanent lesson. As for Zhang Zizai, it also happened to give Bai Yunjing a chance to truly break away from them, so as to save himself from being wasted by these few followers. The killing god mysterious weapon appeared directly on his hand, turning into a fist glove, silently, but when his killing move exploded, the power of the two high-grade dry-level tactics was completely integrated together. Great Chaos Thunder Demon Fist. Great Chaos Thunder God Flash. In a flash, the magic fist blasted out. Countless black thunders formed a monstrous storm, and the huge thunder god suppressed them. When the battle just started, Zhang Zizai directly blasted Yi Xuanhuan away with his crushing combat power. Yi Xuanhuan was completely stunned. Before he could react, he was swallowed up by the crushing thunder. When the endless thunder bombarded him, the power of the punch could only shock his whole body to almost be torn apart. Those destructive the power of Tianyuan and thunder struck him, causing a devastating blow, directly destroying many of his life-saving means, causing him to hit the ground so hard that he was almost crippled. Such injuries were already extremely serious. It affected his entire Divine King Palace assessment to a great extent. The outcome is determined instantly. Qi Lian had been defeated by Zhang Zizai, so he didn't react at all. On the other hand, no one on Bai Yunjing's side expected that Yi Zhonyuan would be defeated so miserably, so they were silent for a while, until suddenly a tornado came and destroyed that person. After struggling to get up, he looked at Zhang Zizai blankly. Yi Zhonyuan, who was about to threaten him, flew away, leaving behind a series of screams. Yi Zhonyuan completely disappeared. There were only two people left beside Bai Yunjing. He stayed for a while, and then his eyes became colder. No wonder you are so rude. It turns out that you are confident. He is a genius, but he is really uneducated. You dare to hurt my brother like this. Today, I have to teach you a lesson. Bai Yunjing couldn't bear it. His eyes were blazing and he walked towards Zhang Zizai. Although the fourth level of the first god realm was only one level away, his Tianyuan power was actually stronger than Yi's Hongai Yuan's. Such suppression directly brought great oppression to Zhang Zizai. Death, he shot decisively. Zhang Zizai judged that he should not be his opponent unless he brought out the Demon Lord Cauldron. He was unwilling to use the Demon Lord Cauldron for the time being, so he had to dodge the attack directly with the Great Chaos Thunder God Flash. The speed of the Great Chaos Thunder God's flash was terrifying. Bai Yunjing's killing move came, but Zhang Zizai was not touched. However, he did not stop, but burst out with stronger momentum and attacked again. That is Bai Yunjing of the Five Emperors dynasty, and he is also a very promising candidate. He actually took action so early. Who was he taking action against? That person has never seen it. Many people occasionally pay attention to the situation here when they are avoiding tornadoes. Bai Yunjing, suddenly, a cute and charming voice was heard. After hearing the voice, Bai Yunjing reluctantly stopped, because after the voice, the girl in white was already standing in front of Zhang Zizai, looking at him angrily. You actually took advantage of my absence to attack my friend. You are too despicable, Bai Yingying said in disbelief, very disappointed. Yingying, it was this person who was so shameless, insulted Yi Zhonyuan, and injured him. Bai Yunjing explained. Nonsense, he didn't need to provoke you if he was fine. You must be hostile to him because you despise his humble background, don't like him, and see that he is not obedient, Bai Yingying said angrily. I have been friends with you for so many years, do you believe him? Bai Yunjing's voice became cold. Bai Yingying pursed her lips and asked the three people, what do you think happened? From my point of view, they were the ones who started the trouble first. Qi Lian was the most courageous and said it directly. Very good, Bai Yunjing smiled. He looked at Zhang Zizai deeply, but Zhang Zizai looked like nothing happened. He smiled and waved his hands, saying, heaven and earth can bear witness. Some people are too arrogant and shoot themselves in the foot. It's ridiculous. Yingying, take care of yourself from now on. Don't let the evil continue to bewitch you. I promised your father to take care of you, but it seems that I can't protect you anymore. He looked at Zhang Zizai and said, don't be like a clown. You know what kind of face you have. There is still a long way to go. Be careful when walking. You too, Zhang Zizai said. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 754. After saying that, Bai Yunjing turned and left, and soon disappeared from their sight. Yingying, are you okay? Lan Kexi and the others hurriedly stepped forward to ask with concern. It's none of your business. You are so concerned. Your own people were bullied, but you didn't show up. Bai Yingying rolled her eyes. This. Qi Lian and the others blushed a little. Indeed, when Bai Yunjing attacked, they didn't dare to move much. They were obviously frightened. Brother Zhang is more powerful than we thought. Even Bai Yunjing, the son of the Green Emperor, can't do anything to him. We can only cause trouble if we go up. Lan Kexi smiled and smoothed it over. Yes, you are right, Huang Yu said quickly. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Humph. Bai Yingying still didn't give them a good face, but patted Zhang Zizai's shoulder carelessly, saying, "You beat up that annoying guy Yi Zhonyuan, it's really comfortable. Bai Yunjing, the follower, is gone, it's all your credit, how can I reward you?" "Miss Yingying, just give me a kiss," Zhang Zizai said. The three of them were stunned, and they were angry in their hearts that they were really taking advantage and being shameless. "Where should I kiss?" Bai Yingying was not shy, and looked at him with a smile. "That's enough." Zhang Zizai pointed to her cheek. He was actually joking. He didn't expect that the girl really came up and kissed him. Although it was just a dragonfly touch, it also made the three envious eyes red. "Do your best next time. With a beauty by your side, the challenge is more interesting." They hurried on, and this time they were much more careful. Zhang Zizai led the way and walked around the tornado. Even so, the deeper they went, the more storms there were. It was really difficult to avoid all the storms perfectly. He saw countless people being swept up to the sky, and then they almost returned to the starting point and started from the beginning. I don't know how much time was wasted. At the deepest point, there were tornadoes all around, and Zhang Zizai couldn't take care of others, so he shuttled around. In the fierce tornado, Xuanhuan was swept away at first, and it was estimated that he went back to the starting point. "Don't worry about him, let him catch up slowly. If we go back to find him now, no one can pass the storm road," Bai Yingying said. "That's the truth. The purpose of the storm road is to split the team. If we keep rescuing each other, no one can pass this level in the end," Zhang Zizai said. He saw it. If they come back to pick up Xuanhuan at this time, they may have to do it countless times. To be honest, this first level can eliminate at least 9 out of 10 people. For the remaining 1 out of 10, many people need to spend a lot of time here. One careless move and they will return to the starting point. They continued to set off, and soon Qi Lian was also swept away. Lan Kexi's body movement was not bad, almost at the same level as Zhang Zizai and them, and he could hold on for a long time. However, when there were tornadoes everywhere around him, he could not hold on in the end. After all, the road that could be walked in this position was very narrow, and if he was not careful, he would go to the sky. Finally, Zhang Zizai rushed out from a gap, and the situation in front of him finally settled down. There was no tornado in front of him. In the end, he could not even take care of Bai Yingying, and could only take care of himself. After coming out at this time, there was no Bai Yingying around him. He looked up and saw that there was a thick white fog in front of him, which filled the whole sky and earth. There seemed to be some trees, and there might be a forest in front of him. Looking behind him, there were dense tornadoes everywhere, but the storm would not cross the boundary and stop 10 feet behind Zhang Zizai. Since he was the only one who passed this level, he would not waste time. Although he lacked information sources when acting alone, there was no other way. Bai Yingying didn't know how long she would have to wait. He was about to leave when a figure suddenly came out. Her hair and dress were very messy, and she was a little dusty. Her clothes were so messy that they even broke her spring light, revealing her snow-white waist and thighs, and her chest was pulled down a lot. She was cursing, and when she looked up while tidying her clothes, she saw Zhang Zizai and screamed, "Don't look, close your eyes. Turn around." Haha, Zhang Zizai could only turn around, anyway, he had seen enough. Unexpectedly, Bai Yingying still insisted. "You are quite amazing. You can come out before me." Bai Yingying walked forward, her face still a little ruddy, and quickly diverted her attention. "I don't want to wait for the three of them if they don't come," Zhang Zizai said directly. "No more waiting, these three idiots." Bai Yingying focused her attention on the front, her eyes lit up, and said, "Look at what is written here." There was a stone tablet in front, and the two walked forward quickly. When they arrived in front of the stone tablet, they found that the words Phantom Forest were engraved on it. The first level is the Storm Road, and the second level is the Phantom Forest. So there must be something illusory in it, which is a test of the soul and spirit. Be careful, Bai Yingying said. No problem in this case. Zhang Zizai activated the Demon Lord Cauldron. As long as the Demon Lord Cauldron was activated, it could protect Zhang Zizai. If it was just a phantom, the Demon Lord Cauldron could not be shown, and others would not be able to see it clearly. The two walked side by side into the forest filled with white fog. It was all white. Those forests without many leaves were hidden in the white fog. Most of them were black, which looked a bit like ghost claws, so it was a bit scary. Bai Yingying said she was not afraid, but she was hiding beside Zhang Zizai, reaching out to pull the corner of Zhang Zizai's clothes, and her head shrank. This illusory forest was not as exciting as the Storm Road. After walking for a long time without seeing other people or any tests, Bai Yingying began to relax. The more you relax, the more it means that danger is approaching, Zhang Zizai reminded. Not many people have come to this level yet. We are fast, Bai Yingying said stubbornly. Don't move, Zhang Zizai pressed her shoulders and stopped. He squinted his eyes and looked around. In the illusory white fog, he saw a big shadow approaching from the side. He was already in combat mode. What the hell is that? Bai Yingying's eyes widened. Zhang Zizai gradually saw the thing clearly from the white mist. It was a snow-white elk. The elk was very tall, and its whole body was snow-white, even its pupils were white, without a trace of impurities, and it was extremely beautiful. This was a source beast, but it looked very pure, without any sense of threat, and even made people want to get close to it, pure as white snow. This was a holy thing, and it didn't seem to have any malice. It soon appeared in front of Zhang Zizai and the two of them, looking at them quietly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 755. What a beautiful little deer! Little stars appeared in Bai Yingying's eyes, and she couldn't help but reach out to touch the white deer. Don't move, Zhang Zizai held her back and took several steps back. The reason for this was that he felt the vibration of the Demon Lord's cauldron. It was obvious that the white deer had attacked them, but Bai Yingying did not notice it. That's all. As I write this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Why don't you let me play with the little deer? Bai Yingying said angrily. Her anger was a bit inexplicable, like a child having a tantrum. Children like to play with small animals. Once restricted, she would probably have this expression. She must have been fascinated by Bai Lu. Let's go. Zhang Zizai was too lazy to say anything more. He directly covered her eyes to prevent her from looking at the white deer, and then pulled away from her. Ugh, I have to play with the little deer, it's annoying. She actually started struggling, looking like she was about to act up. Zhang Zizai directly speeded up, and before she could really resist, he took her away from the white deer. In a blink of an eye, she was a mile away. During this period, Bai Yingying kept struggling, and even wanted to attack Zhang Zizai, until she couldn't see anymore. After arriving at Bailu, she slowly calmed down and asked with some distress, why are you so rude? That's the divine source beast, the dream deer. It can make you insane, what do you think? The divine deer of fantasy dreams. Bai Yingying finally remembered it, feeling frightened for a while. I heard that the divine deer of fantasy dreams will make people obsessed with it, causing them to kill each other. Its strongest ability is to meet other people in groups. At that time, if it was encountered by a single person, it would not be in any danger, but if it was subconsciously protected, if it met other people again, it would fight with other people. Such a rare source beast was actually found in the God King Palace. Many. Bai Yingying broke out in a cold sweat. She recalled the previous scene. If Zhang Zizai hadn't pulled it quickly, she would have been tricked. The killing method of the dream deer is indeed very magical, but very effective. Even other origin beasts may fall under its illusion, be manipulated by it, and sacrifice their lives for it. Although this thing looks very beautiful, it is actually one of the most ferocious beasts in the world. It can easily cause relatives and friends to kill each other, leading to many tragedies. Thinking of so many things, Bai Yingying felt scared for a while. She stared at Zhang Zizai and asked, "Why can you tell the difference so quickly?" "Because he's handsome," Zhang Zizai smiled. "Humph, beg for a beating." She stretched out her pink fist and beat Zhang Zizai's chest for a long time. "Let's go." The two embarked on the journey again, and this time they didn't go far when Zhang Zizai saw someone fighting in front of them. They walked forward and found that the battle was very fierce. There were 3 people fighting in the melee, and next to them there was a dream god. Deer, the dreamy divine deer's body exudes white light, shrouding the 3 people. Huan Mengshenlu saw Zhang Zizai and the others, and gave a gentle cry, guiding Zhang Zizai and the others over. As long as they were enchanted, they would soon join the battle. The battle between those 3 was very fierce. Judging from the battle, they should all be top geniuses. Bai Yingying said, "They are from the Fufeng dynasty. Let's go quickly." "No help. Of course I won't save him. He is our opponent and I hate him to death," Bai Yingying said. She actually knew that as long as she stayed there for a long time and fell into the illusion of the dream deer, it would be very troublesome. What they saw this time really confirmed their previous inferences. The dream deer is the most dangerous thing in this psychedelic forest, equivalent to the previous storm, so this psychedelic forest is very easy for Zhang Zizai, because his demon lord cauldron can block the hallucinations of the dream divine deer, so the journey is smooth and he can move forward very fast. They found that the further they walked, the stronger the power of the dream deer became. It was difficult for Bai Yingying to resist it later. It was better for Zhang Zizai to take her away directly to prevent her from getting trapped in it. Without Zhang Zizai, it was impossible to reach such a deep position in a short time. Zhang Zizai had a hunch that they might be able to enter the 3rd level soon. This psychedelic forest can probably make me surpass many people. Zhang Zizai thought to himself. A dream divine deer appeared in front of them again. This was the 10th dream divine deer that Zhang Zizai encountered. The dream divine deer came directly in front of them and attacked directly. Even Zhang Zizai felt that the pressure on the demon lord's cauldron was very great. His mind was a little confused. "Let's go," Zhang Zizai slapped Bai Yingying to make her wake up, then directly grabbed her neck and ran away as fast as possible. Not long after he turned around and left, a colorful light suddenly came from behind him. When Zhang Zizai turned around, he was shocked to see that the dreamy divine deer suddenly turned into a colorful light. After turning into a colorful light, the sacred deer covered in colorful fluorescent light is even more magnificent. It is simply a work of art from heaven and earth. At the same time, the pressure on the demon lord's cauldron seems to be gone. The colorful sacred deer groaned softly, then turned around and motioned for Zhang Zizai to follow them. "Don't believe it, it might be some new trap," Bai Yingying said nervously. "I don't think so," Zhang Zizai said. "Why? If even you realize it's a trap, then it's not a trap anymore," Zhang Zizai smiled. "What do you mean, you look down on me?" Bai Yingying said angrily. "Haha, actually I think it's possible that after we defeated 10 magical deer in a row, some kind of mechanism of this assessment was punished. We will know if we follow it. If the situation is not right, we will leave. Are you lucky?" "Okay, I will reluctantly believe you this time," Bai Yingying said. The two of them said no more and quickened their speed to follow the colorful divine deer. The colorful divine deer really did not fascinate them, but led the way in front. The road it led was winding and winding, and it almost made Bai Yingying dizzy. This further proves that the place we are about to arrive is a place that people without guidance can never reach, Zhang Zizai said. As soon as the voice fell, the white fog in front was extremely thick, and there was only colorful light in front of them. Suddenly, the scene in front of them became clear. It turned out that they had entered a large tree hole. There was no white fog in the tree hole at all. Everything in front of them was very clear. At this time, the colorful divine deer was already in the center of the tree hole. It raised its head and its horns were in the air. Suddenly, a white stone appeared between the horns. The stone rotated in the air and emitted a magnificent light. There were vague human figures changing inside. The scene was very intense. What is this? Bai Yingying walked up curiously. At this time, the colorful divine deer suddenly dissipated and merged into the white stone. Zhang Zizai found that there were many transparent totem patterns on the white stone, which made the stone very different. The colorful divine deer had disappeared, and this stone was the end point it guided. The remaining updates will be before 11 o'clock. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 756. The material of this stone is the Tianhuan Divine Stone, which is a kind of holy grade spiritual mineral. It is the rarest spiritual mineral below the God level. I don't know what is in this Tianhuan Divine Stone. It seems to have some kind of picture. Bai Yingying said curiously. Have a look. Zhang Zizai stood with her on both sides of the magic God Stone, focusing entirely on the magic God Stone. After the storm road, you don't necessarily have to go forward to pass the level. It is possible to understand the secret of this magical stone, and you may reach the next level. Zhang Zizai said. I think so too. It's not just you who is smart, Bai Yingying said. Naughty. The two people quickly focused their attention on the magic God Stone. Zhang Zizai stretched out his hand and touched the magic God Stone with Bai Yingying. At the moment of contact, Zhang Zizai's vision kept changing. It was as if I was suddenly pulled into a brand new world. That world seemed to be the God's domain, but it looked completely different from the current God's domain. There were flames of war and ruins everywhere. The whole world seemed to be a battlefield, everything was destroyed, and the sky was full. The flames of war were raging, and when Zhang Zizai was confused, he discovered that he was just a consciousness. He could travel around at any time, and very fast. Boom boom boom. He saw that there were two beings fighting in front of him. They were definitely at the level of ancient gods. There were sounds of fighting coming from other directions, which showed that this was not the only battlefield. But even so, the destruction caused by the battle between these two people was the same. It is so unbelievable that mountains can collapse, rivers can be evaporated, and all living things can be destroyed in an instant. This was an ancient god-level battle. Zhang Zizai was very close to them. If he were on a real battlefield, he might be directly killed by the aftermath of the battle, but that was not the case now. He could be very careful and patient. Yes, watch this battle carefully, watch the moves of these two ancient gods, watch how they mobilize the power of heaven and earth, and watch how they fight. Observing and studying at such a close distance is very important for his own understanding. Fighting is the most intuitive manifestation of the Tianyuan that a person has cultivated. However, it is impossible for him to be so meticulous in fighting that is much more powerful than Zhang Zizai. The opportunity for observation was completely different now. In the heavenly fantasy stone, Zhang Zizai got such an opportunity. One of the two parties in this battle has a demonic energy, and the other has a fire type. It may be a god and a demon. While they were fighting, they were still yelling at each other. They obviously resented each other very much, but Zhang Zizai could hear the fighting. There was movement, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. Maybe there are secrets hidden in this conversation. This was a brutal battle that lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, After the ancient god killed the ancient demon, he seemed to have died of serious injuries and finally fell to the ground. It can be said that Zhang Zizai was at the nearest place from beginning to end, even watching the battle at the point where they attacked. To be honest, every move and every performance they performed was mysterious to him, and the mystery guided his direction, allowing him to feel the power of the ancient god very clearly and naturally. He had a lot of thoughts, but they were not concrete yet, so he continued to move forward, because there were still sounds of fighting everywhere. When he continued to move, he found a new battlefield again. On the new battlefield, there were 7 people. 8 beings were fighting in a melee. As expected, they were divided into 2 camps, the ancient gods and the ancient demons. The commotion caused by the melee between the 2 sides was much greater than what Zhang Zizai had observed last time. This place was originally a lake, but it had been razed to the ground. The ground was flat, and everything was scorched earth. There was almost no complete piece of ground left. The strong ones here are stronger, and the fighting is louder. Everyone's source of heaven is different, and the power they exert is completely different. They are more able to control the power of heaven and earth than in the original God realm. They seem to be able to control it easily, and it feels like they are like heaven and earth. Like a master, he can destroy everything with just a few moves. Zhang Zizai continued to observe. He was at the center of the battlefield, eagerly observing and comprehending. By watching the battles of the ancient gods, he was able to think about his own problems and also think about his own source of destruction. In fact, these so-called experiences were of great significance to him. Said that it was all what he longed for. He continued to improve and solved many of his doubts through the battles of these ancient gods. The battle here ended in one day. When one person on the ancient god's side died in the battle, the remaining people immediately fled. I don't know if they escaped in the end, but Zhang Zizai still gained a lot. He felt as if he had made a breakthrough in the realm. The itch. Sure enough, after staying in the origin continent, I only entered the first god realm for half a year. But when I came out, my efficiency was much higher. As expected, you need to find your own answers while wandering around. Maybe Tianyuan realm did not need it before, but it is extremely needed now. It seems that it is good for Baishanjin and Wanqian to go out to experience in advance. Lu Dingxing's going to Dao Mo sect is also of great benefit to him. Maybe they will have someone next time they meet. Specialized training will definitely make great progress. He continued to wander in this world. After a few days, he found a terrifying battlefield. There were hundreds of ancient gods fighting in this battlefield. This melee scene was too lively for Zhang Zizai. He walked directly into the center of the battlefield eagerly, watching and pondering everywhere. There were battles everywhere, and there were ancient gods everywhere. He went from one personal battlefield to another, with all the resources flowing in. This feeling is so happy. Soon he almost forgot himself, only learning allowed him to continuously improve. He found many answers to his own thoughts from the battle between gods and demons. It seemed that the cultivation of the initial god realm no longer required the practice of the technique. Naturally, he continued to grow his source of destruction in countless studies. After watching hundreds of battles between gods and demons, he realized that his source of destruction had grown to a higher level, so it underwent a transformation. The second level of the initial god realm, unexpectedly reached like this. His source of destruction has definitely grown, and the power of the source of destruction is even more magnificent. At this time, the battle between the ancient gods had not yet ended, and Zhang Zizai was still preparing to continue to observe. Unexpectedly, his brain was shocked and he was actually repelled. His consciousness had left the world of the battle between gods and demons in the fantasy stone and returned to the tree hole. He wanted to contact and observe again, but he could no longer enter. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 757. How stingy he knew that this was the arrangement of the God King Palace. Everyone could only break through one realm at most. He was already in the second level of the initial God realm, so he couldn't enter it. However, at least the gains were indeed very huge. After reaching the second level of the initial God realm, he had a much greater grasp of the future levels. His combat power had at least reached the upper level of all the participants, almost on par with Bai Yingying. He stabilized his realm for a while, and then saw that Bai Yingying was still immersed in the heavenly illusionary God Stone. He did not disturb her, but calmed down to consolidate his combat power. It seems that I have been in there for nearly a month. I wonder how long it has passed outside. If it's too long, has the assessment of the God King Palace ended? It probably won't be so unreasonable. There should still be other people who can block the attack of the Dream God Deer 10 times in a row, Zhang Ziyi thought in his heart. He even felt that the heavenly illusionary God Stone might be the key to reaching the next level. Before a quarter of an hour had passed since he stopped to stabilize his realm, Bai Yingying woke up. It seemed that she had not made any breakthroughs. At this time, the illusion God Stone dimmed and became an ordinary stone that fell down and was held in Bai Yingying's hand. I gained a lot. I almost entered the 5th level of the initial God realm. I'm so lucky, she said, very satisfied. Then she saw Zhang Ziyi and asked, it's been a total of 50 days. Have you made any progress? 50 days, I was only in there for less than 30 days, Zhang Ziyi asked suspiciously. How long have you been awake? Only about a quarter of an hour. That means the 50 days in the illusion God Stone are about 2 to 3/4 of an hour, and not much time has passed at all, Bai Yingying said, very satisfied. Zhang Ziyi thought about it and thought so. If he really stayed for 50 days, then the Divine King Palace assessment would have ended long ago. Have you made any progress? Bai Yingying looked at him suspiciously. No, absolutely not, Zhang Ziyi said. That's natural, your comprehension is definitely not as good as mine. You can directly observe the battle between gods and demons in there. This is the fortune of the disciples of the God King Palace. I didn't expect that we got it before we entered the God King Palace. Lucky, she said very excitedly. Is the Phantom God Stone still useful that day? Zhang Ziyi asked. I don't know, put it aside for now, maybe it will be useful, Bai Yingying said with satisfaction. Zhang Ziyi was about to speak, and suddenly there was a flash of light behind him, and the colorful fluorescent light filled the entire tree hole. Zhang Ziyi turned around and saw a colorful divine deer walking in. When the colorful divine deer saw Zhang Ziyi behind him, it whined and dissipated directly in the air. After the colorful divine deer dissipated, 3 people appeared behind it. They were obviously guided here. However, they seemed to be late. Just now I think I heard you talking about the heavenly illusionary stone. The visitor seemed to have heard part of their conversation. When the colorful divine deer suddenly disappeared, they directly stared at Zhang Ziyi and Bai Yingying. Ice God Kingdom. Princess Shenling. Bai Yingying immediately noticed the woman in the middle of the 3 people wearing a blue dress. The woman was tall and had very white skin, the same color as the real white snow skin. Her pair of water blue eyes were very moving. Except for her cold face, she was also a top beauty, no worse than Bai Yingying, with a feeling of a frosty beauty. This woman is actually not very old, probably about 17 years old, a little older than Bai Yingying, and her strength is probably about the same as Bai Yingying. At the age of 16 or 17, she has reached this realm, which is considered very top in the God realm. The other 2 are obviously about 20 years old and have reached the same realm, so their talents are a little worse. Princess Shenling of the Glacier Kingdom was flanked by 2 men, both of whom were tall and thin, with stern faces. One was covered in ice, and the other was covered in snow. Both were looking at Zhang Ziyi. They were the followers of Princess Shenling, but they were much stronger than Qi Lian. If Zhang Ziyi's estimate was correct, These three people should all be at the fourth level of the initial god realm, otherwise they would not have passed the storm road together so quickly, and could still withstand the illusion of the dream god deer. Bai Yingying from the Five Emperors dynasty, Beatty City, Princess Shenling locked onto Bai Yingying, and her voice became much colder. Yes, we fought 4 years ago. You are 1 year older than me, and you can't beat me, Bai Yingying said. Her eyes also had strong hostility, because the Glacier Kingdom and the Five Emperors dynasty were historical rivals. I remember it was at the Ice Emperor's banquet. You were really good then, but it's different today. Princess Shenling's eyes were cold. She probably felt that it was a shame for her status to be forced to tie with Bai Yingying. These two are Bingyi and Xuefu, aren't they over 20 years old? Bai Yingying actually complained a little. Although the two people around Princess Shenling were older, the key was that they were about the same age as her. Now they obviously had bad intentions. How could she fight 3 people alone? Bai Yingying, take out the Tianhuan divine stone you just got. Princess Shenling got straight to the point. She stretched out her palm and said, if you refuse, I may have to let you lie in this tree hole until the Divine King Palace assessment is over. Why? Just because you have more people? If you dare, challenge me one-on-one, Bai Yingying said stubbornly. You think I'm a fool? There are plenty of opportunities to fight you out in a one-on-one fight. Now, the 3 of us will surround you. Take it out quickly. I don't want to dirty my hands. I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it, Princess Shenling said in a domineering tone. Hey, what siege? At least I'm still here. It's 2 against 3 at most. Suddenly, a discordant voice came out, and Zhang Zizai, who was standing on the side and not being paid attention to, finally spoke. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content later. Is this your toy? Your aesthetics are not good, Bai Yingying, your taste is really bad, Princess Shenling said contemptuously. Bai Yingying's face flushed with anger. Even if her taste is problematic, at least she is not as heavy as you. She carries 2 mistresses with her. Do you always play 1 against 2? Zhang Zizai teased. This princess of the divine realm is definitely far behind her in this kind of mouth cannon skills. When Zhang Zizai said this, Princess Shenling was so angry that she was about to explode. Who of you 2 will kill this man and throw him out? Princess Shenling said. I'll do it. In order to grab the credit, the 2 stepped forward and suppressed Zhang Zizai. Come on together, 2 useless people. Zhang Zizai smiled and stepped forward. Hey, are you crazy? Bai Yingying said in astonishment. What do you know, little girl? This is called a hero saving a beautiful woman. Puff. Both women laughed. Bai Yingying thought he was really daring, but it was undeniable that it was fun. Princess Shenling's laugh was pure contempt. After all, for her, it was not common to see such a fool in such a place. Let him suffer a little before he dies. I will take the Tianhuan divine stone myself. You can torture him slowly until I get the Tianhuan divine stone, Princess Shenling said. That's troublesome. I guess I will be tortured for a long time because you can't beat my Yingying, Zhang Zizai said. Who is yours? Bai Yingying said in a delicate voice. Do it. At this time, she was still flirting, which made Princess Shenling almost crazy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 758. In the Glacier Divine Kingdom, the fathers of the 2 men, Benji and Xuefu, are the highest status ancient gods in the Divine Kingdom, second only to the Lord of the Divine Kingdom. One is the Tianbing Grand Marshal, commanding the army of the Kingdom of God, and the other is the Snow Prime Minister in front of the palace, and even Gao Wenchen, assisting the king in governing the world. The identities of Marshal Tianbing and Xuexiang are similar to those of Bai Emperor of the Five Emperors dynasty, so their identities are equivalent to Bai Yingying. It's just that their talents are slightly lower. When they were close to 20 years old, they reached the fourth level of the first god realm, which was slightly lower than Princess Shenling and Bai Yingying. When they were provoked by Zhang Zizai, the two of them appeared directly in front of Zhang Zizai, because they knew very well that Zhang Zizai had completely annoyed Princess Shenling. Which of the two could quickly capture Zhang Zizai and vent her anger on Princess Shenling? There will definitely be bonus points. I'm a sharp-tongued person, so I pulled out your tongue first and asked you to chew on it again. You're not very good at speaking. I'll see what you say when your tongue is broken. Benji's face seemed to be covered with several layers of coldness. Ice. Remember the domain name of this website, Taiwan Novel Network. Rightward arrow. Just break the dog's legs and stay here in the Valley of the Fall, Swifu said sarcastically. Stop talking nonsense and do it. Princess Shenling was more anxious than them. After she finished speaking, she glanced at Bai Yingying proudly. They were indeed outnumbered and they had defeated Bai Yingying this time. Yes, Princess, the two of them looked at each other, quite vying for the first place. After responding, the two of them took action directly. Facing a person like Zhang Zizai, but letting them take action, they naturally felt that it was a killing. It was a bad move, but they thought it didn't matter. After all, they could vent their anger on Princess Shenling. The happier they were, the better their performance, which was always beneficial. The competition between them for Princess Shenling is almost equivalent to the competition for power between the two major factions in the Glacier Kingdom. The characteristics of the two of them are very distinct. One controls the ice and the other controls the flying snow. The ice and snow seem to be communicating with each other, but they are completely different Tianyuan powers. They use all their strength not to find Zhang Zizuo difficult, but to find Zhang Zizuo difficult to deal with. To compete with each other. A pair of huge ice wings condensed behind the ice wings. Under the flapping of the ice wings, countless ice spikes erupted in an instant, enough to reach tens of millions. Each ice spike was as strong as a totem weapon. Sharp. Wherever the ice spikes hit, everything in the world froze. The entire tree hole was not big to begin with. In the blink of an eye, even the air was frozen. The entire world was completely frozen. Not only Zhang Zizai, but also Bai Yingying was affected by the ice freeze. As for the power of Swifu's totem, it was not the same. A blizzard quickly swept around him. Countless dark blue snowflakes were flying violently as if they were poisonous, sweeping towards Zhang Zizai. The snowflakes were so fast spreading, ice and snow were mixed together for a while. The power of heaven and earth triggered by the fourth level of the first god realm was terrifying. Zhang Zizai was at the core of this blizzard and ice. If he was not strong enough, he would probably be frozen in the first place. Into a corpse. Zhang Zizai had been prepared for a long time. Since the troublemaker had already arrived, there was nothing else to do but do it. The source of destruction at the second level of the first god realm erupted violently at this moment. Coupled with the change of the Tai Chi beginning demon dragon totem, it was directly transformed into the totem's fighting form. Dense dragon scales and bone spurs spread all over the body, causing it to quickly transform into a totem. Fighting machine. As soon as this transformation was revealed, it had a complete impact on the three of them. The source of destruction activates the power of destruction between heaven and earth. The power of destruction is the dark side of all power. The power Zhang Zizai can activate is actually much more than others. That burst of power suppressed the sweeping ice and blizzard in the first place. Immediately afterwards, Zhang Zizai raised his head, and the Tai Chi patterns in his eyes rotated much faster. The majestic power burst out from his body, and at this moment, it transformed into countless black thunderbolts. The 100,000 level electric snakes rushed out instantly, forming two types of yin and yang. The two types of thunder and electric snakes attracted each other and repel each other. Infinite lethality exploded in the chaos. Zhang Zizai was flashing directly in the entire tree hole, and it was impossible to find his location, or in other words, his location was everywhere. This made Benji and Xuanhuan stunned for a while. A little skill, Benji pulled out a big ice sword, held it in his hand, and immediately began to dance with the sword and perform sword fighting techniques. Every time the sword energy passed by, thousands of ice tore around it. Xuanhuan was holding a blue folding fan. As he waved the folding fan, countless storms were formed. Those storms were mixed with countless blizzards. Each piece of blizzard was very sharp and had many spikes on it. Are both more hidden weapons than concealed weapons. As he waved the folding fan, hundreds of thousands of sharp snowflakes swept up and exploded. No matter where Zhang Zizai was hiding, he could find Zhang Zizai. Be careful, Bai Yingying was very nervous. She knew that Zhang Zizai would definitely die if this continued. In desperation, she could only take action to protect Zhang Zizai. But she didn't expect that as soon as she took a step, a woman appeared in front of her. The woman smiled. She looked at him groaningly and said, "Men are fighting, but it's better for us women not to get involved." Bitch, Bai Yingying was very anxious. Even if Princess Shenling stopped her, she would take action. During this period of time, she had completely regarded Zhang Zizai as a friend, but Benji and Xuanhuan were obviously going to be ruthless. This guy, he is obviously not his opponent, but he still wants to provoke others. Really, Bai Yingying really couldn't do anything with him, but seeing that he seemed to be in danger and nervous, she deeply understood that she couldn't hold on for long even if Benji and Xuanhuan joined forces. Who told you not to take out the Tianhuan Divine Stone? He will suffer. The shameless man deserves retribution. Princess Shenling laughed. She took a look and knew that she had a sure win. Although Zhang Zizai's outburst just now was a little unexpected, it was just that little bit. At this time, suddenly, countless thunders gathered together, and thousands of thunders and lightning condensed into a huge fist shadow. The fist shadow exploded from top to bottom, and wherever it went, it completely destroyed everything in the world, and the tree hole seemed to be completely swallowed up. At this time, countless frozen sword chi and violent snowstorms rushed into the sky. Under the guidance of the two of them, they collided with Zhang Zizai's great chaos thunder demon fist. The power of the thunderstorm was beyond their imagination, but they were still confident that they could defeat Zhang Zizai with the two of them. How could they know that the seemingly not exaggerated great chaos thunder demon fist was supported by the power of destroying the source of the sky? This was an extraordinary killing power beyond appearances, and it was enough to make the opponent despise themselves. So, a miracle happened. The remaining updates will be around 11 o'clock. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 759. Even Bai Yingying thought that Zhang Zizai would be swallowed up by the ice and snow, when the great chaos thunder demon fist burst out with explosive power, directly swallowing up the thousands of frozen sword energy and ice storm. And it grew stronger in the engulfment, and then landed in the dull eyes of Benji and Xuanhuan. Suddenly, countless lightning and thunder had completely engulfed them. Boom! The thunder swept across, causing the ground to tremble. Only the screams of Benji and Xuanhuan could be heard. When the storm dissipated, two charred human bodies could be seen falling softly to the ground and howling miserably. They were already dying. Terrible to look at. And Zhang Zizai landed lightly on the ground, waving his hands as if nothing happened, and said with a smile, "What two losers, they can't even catch one of my moves. They have wasted so many cultivation resources." He glanced at Princess Ling and said, "The level of your two concubines is a bit low. With your level of aesthetics, you still have the nerve to mock my Yingying. It really makes people laugh. Do you know the word shame?" Right. Zhang Zizai was unscathed, but the two people she brought with her were already in terrible condition. The advantages and disadvantages between each other could be seen clearly at a glance. But before that, she still swore that the two of them could easily compete to win Zhang Zizai, but she didn't know that it would end like this. All in all, Zhang Zizai was so powerful that it made him sluggish. For a moment, her face was already hot, and the shameful feeling made her want to find a crack in the ground to crawl in, especially when she saw Bai Yingying, who was also sluggish, suddenly burst into laughter, looking at her proudly. Her mouth Li smiled and said, "Princess Shenling, where do you get your confidence from? Don't you know what a slap in the face is? What now, do you still want me to give you the heavenly magic stone? But if you piss me off, you will be spanked." Princess Shenling was so ashamed that she felt ashamed. We'll see, she was really trembling with anger. At this time, she didn't care about the two people who were still screaming on the ground. She turned around and got out of the tree hole. She didn't know where to escape in the blink of an eye. "Zhang Zizai, what kind of fortune did you get from the heavenly magic stone to suddenly become so strong?" Bai Yingying looked at him with a serious look on her face. "You guessed wrong. I am so strong. I hid my strength before," Zhang Zizai said with a smile. "You think I'm stupid? Humph, I know you took advantage. Otherwise, how could you have come out of the heavenly magic stone so quickly? So what? Isn't it enough to become stronger? Before I became a woman, I was no match for you. Can you still become a woman?" Bai Yingying expressed praise. "That's not possible, but I can make you a woman," Zhang Zizai said. "Ah," Bai Yingying immediately understood the meaning of the words, and immediately became anxious. Her face was as red as a peach. She rushed up and wanted to beat Zhang Zizai, and cursed, "Young disciple, I will tear you to pieces." Mouth. Ha ha. Zhang Zizai succeeded in teasing and was in a good mood. They left the tree hole in the middle of the fight. As for the Ice Wings and Xuefu, they had long been forgotten. "How can we leave this fantasy forest?" After the fight, Bai Yingying was a little tired. After that, she didn't encounter the dream deer anymore. As she continued to walk forward, the white fog seemed to dissipate a little. "I guess it's almost there." Zhang Zizai looked ahead and said. What they didn't know was that after they passed by, two figures appeared on the trees behind them. It was the stunning beauty Xuanhuan, and the two ancient gods Zhou Lingxian and Bai Qinghua. They looked at Zhang from a distance. Zhou Lingxian, who was walking in the direction of leaving, said, "What is this kid's identity? Why is there no information? After all, he is the first person to achieve realm transformation in the battlefield of gods and demons." "Never heard of it," Bai Qinghua said. "You are from the Five Emperors dynasty and you don't even know him?" Zhou Lingxian asked. "There are too many unknown people." "How can I remember them?" Bai Qinghua said lightly. "He can defeat two people at the fourth level of the first god realm. Whether it is Totem, battle tactics, and Tianyuan, he should be very top-notch. There is a certain hope. I am a little optimistic that this kid can make some interesting changes," Zhou Lingxian said. "I think Xuanba has some characteristics, but he is not among the strongest. He is improving, and so are others," Bai Qinghua said. Zhou Lingxian asked for trouble. He turned around and asked Xuanyu, who was moaning and groaning, and said, "Junior sister Su, what do you think?" "I didn't look carefully." "Is it that boy?" Xuanyu was actually thinking about other things and had just come to her senses at this time. Yet Zhou Lingxian nodded. "I still pay more attention to the ones with more distinctive characteristics. He doesn't have many characteristics, so I didn't pay attention," Xuanyu said softly. "That's right. The competition in the men's group this year is a bit bigger than that in the women's group. Indeed, there is no suspense in the women's group." Xuanyu seemed to have remembered something, and a smile appeared in her mouth. "Your sister is really naughty. The daughter of the God King of Tiandu is naturally a member of the God King's palace. Why should she take part in the assessment in person to occupy this quota? Zhou Lingxian asked tentatively. This is my father's arrangement, a test for her. If she fails, she will not be allowed to continue practicing in the God King's palace. Her character is too naughty. This is a test for her, Xuanhuan said. God King Tiandu really has good intentions, but there is no one in the women's group who is qualified to compete with her, even a little bit qualified to compete, Zhou Lingxian said. Don't underestimate others. I can see that those who pass the assessment and enter the God King Palace every year will achieve better results in the future than those who are cultivated by the God King Palace since childhood, because their personalities are strong enough, while some people are more frivolous, Xuanhuan said with a smile. The arrangement of the God King of Tiandu is very meaningful, but I have a doubt, Bai Qinghua suddenly said. What doubt? Most men and women of the same year will get together. How can a man from the outside world match the daughter of the God King of Tiandu? Bai Qinghua said. You think too much. Who says they will definitely get together? Xuanhuan chuckled, but there was a very noble pride in her eyes. That's right, Bai Qinghua nodded, and he asked tentatively. Sure enough, ordinary people definitely have no chance. In fact, although your sister's personality is a little more lively, her talent is really terrible. At her age, it is very rare to reach her level, Zhou Lingxian sighed. She just isn't serious. If she were serious, it wouldn't be a problem for her to surpass me, Xuanhuan let out a gentle smile. Zhou Lingxian and Bai Qinghua didn't dare to respond to this. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 760. Zhang Zizai and Bai Yingying continued to move forward, and finally found a stone pillar in the deepest part of the magic forest. The stone pillar was a little abrupt in such a forest, so they walked up directly and found that there was a groove on the stone pillar. Take out the heavenly illusionary divine stone. Zhang Zizai stretched out his hand and said. I'll do it myself. Bai Yingying stretched out her hand, took out the heavenly illusionary divine stone, and put it in the groove, saying, Sure enough, to pass this level, you need to withstand the attacks of 10 fantasy dream deer in a row to get the heavenly illusionary divine stone. You will know soon. At this point, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. When the heavenly illusionary divine stone was placed on the groove, it just fit together. As the two fit together, the stone pillar actually began to melt, and then turned into a vortex, just swallowing Zhang Zizai and Bai Yingying who were standing around. After a dizzy spell, Zhang Zizai stood firm and supported Bai Yingying beside him. As soon as he arrived at this new place, Zhang Zizai felt extremely hot and immediately began to sweat. What a hot place, Bai Yingying said impatiently. The two of them looked ahead and found that there was a black sea of fire in front of them. The black flames were burning fiercely in it. There was very little place to stand in the flames. Looking far away, they found that the sea of fire was endless and had no end at all. Black smoke and sea of fire. It should be the third level. Zhang Zizai saw a stone tablet in front of him with 4 big characters black smoke and flames written on it. This third level is too terrible. It will be burned to ashes in a while, Bai Yingying said pitifully. After seeing the burning sea of fire, she didn't dare to move forward. Don't worry, I'm here. What's the use of you? My cruelty can make your heart cool, can't it resist the heat? Zhang Zizai said with a smile. Asshole. Bai Yingying knew he wouldn't say anything nice. As soon as they got close, they suddenly felt a burning sensation in their throats, and it seemed like there was something extra in their mouths, burning their mouths and tongues. He also heard Bai Yingying scream in pain. Looking carefully, she was opening her mouth and saying it was hot. When she opened her mouth, Zhang Zizai suddenly saw a ball of black flame in her mouth. I can't spit it out. What is this? Bai Yingying said dumbly. There was suddenly a ball of fire in her mouth, and it didn't belong to her. What a strange thing. Sure enough, the ancient gods are the ancient gods, and their methods are different. Black smoke fire. Zhang Zizai endured the burning of the fire and calmed down. How do you know? Bai Yingying asked in surprise. Rely on my intelligence. Bullshit. She turned her head and looked around. Sure enough, on the stone tablet with the words black smoke and fire written on it, she found another line of small characters, which read, take away other people's black smoke and fire to travel through the sea of fire. In other words, to pass this third level, you need to take away the black smoke and fire in other people's mouths. It's too disgusting. You actually have to take away what others have in their mouths, Bai Yingying said speechlessly. And it doesn't say how much you have to take before you can leave. If it's taken from a beautiful woman's mouth, it's acceptable. Zhang Zizai laughed. Vile, Bai Yingying said contemptuously. You dare to mock me, be careful not to take away your fire, Zhang Zizai said. Lolialu, you don't dare. Bai Yingying stuck out her tongue, and ended up burning herself. She grimaced in pain, which led to Zhang Zizai's ruthless ridicule. Stupid. Say it again. Go, go, don't waste time. Zhang Zizai pulled her, and even though she was afraid of the sea of fire, she was dragged in. There was still a place to stay in the black smoke and sea of fire, but the temperature of the flames was too high, and it was changing at any time, so it was easy to be infected and burn the skin black. How many people do you think have made it to this level like us? Bai Yingying asked him to open the way. She hid behind and looked around, avoiding the fireballs that were splashing everywhere. She was slightly burned and her whole body was charred. I don't know, there should be quite a few. The first 2 levels are not too difficult, Zhang Zizai said. This is not difficult. What is difficult? Bai Yingying said. That's because you are too weak. You can't spit out ivory from a dog's mouth. You must be very careful when moving forward here. With the reminder of the stone tablet, the threat in the black smoke and sea of fire is not only this black flame, but also from other competitors. If you are not careful, you may lose your chance. Because the sea of black smoke and fire can hide, it is almost impossible to know whether there is anyone 10 feet away. It is even possible to walk in front of you and suddenly find someone on the opposite side. In order to prevent being stared at, the whole process needs to be very cautious. There is no one at all, Bai Yingying said. Yes, I saw 7 people gathered together just now, but we were weak, so I didn't provoke them and just walked around, Zhang Zizai said in a deep voice. Those people are stronger, so he didn't show off. He mainly relied on the soul realm of the virtual god realm to feel it. How do you know? Because I'm not blind. That means I'm blind. It's probably soon. You want to be beaten? Bai Yingying rushed over and tried to strangle him. Zhang Zizai naturally held her down to prevent the girl from going crazy. The 2 of them quarreled in the sea of fire. Suddenly, a cold gaze fell on him. Zhang Zizai felt the danger and looked up. He saw a figure appearing in front of him. Yingying, we are engaged. Is this appropriate for you? Bai Yunjing's face was cold and his voice was trembling. He didn't expect him to come here so soon. This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Who said that? I didn't agree anyway. Bai Yingying put her hand away awkwardly, but still said it very hard. I respect your opinion, but before our parents agree to cancel it, you should at least pay attention. If it gets out, it will be bad for my reputation. Bai Yunjing gritted his teeth and looked at Zhang Zizai with a very cold look. I know. Bai Yingying pouted and lowered her head. She knew that Bai Yunjing would definitely complain after he went out. Thinking of her father's rage, she was still a little worried and said, don't say anything to my father. He has the right to know your current situation, Bai Yunjing said. Why are you like this? Bai Yingying said angrily. I don't think you need to go deeper into this assessment. You are too young and can be easily deceived by people with ulterior motives. For your own good, I will send you out and get rid of this kind of people. By the way, this is what your father told me. I must protect you, so I'm sorry. Bai Yunjing's face was cold and he stared at Zhang Zizai. I can distinguish between good and evil. You are too much to say and do this. It will only make me look down on you. You just want to get our fire, Bai Yingying said. You can think so, it doesn't matter, as long as your father knows my good intentions, Bai Yunjing said. The hypocritical hypocrite has finally revealed his true colors. Let's see who will teach whom a lesson. Bai Yingying was also annoyed. She glared at Zhang Zizai and said, the fire is given to you. Go and get it. I updated 3 chapters today and owe another chapter. Now it's the end of July, and there will be a more stable time in August. I will start updating at that time. I owe 9 chapters. Please wait for a while. Thank you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 761. Hearing Bai Yingying's words, Bai Yunjing couldn't help but laugh, perhaps because he felt that she was still so naive. Yingying, you are not my opponent, and adding a cat or dog will not be of any use. He looked at Zhang Zizai with contempt, with only deep indifference in his eyes. He has been patient from the beginning to now, which really counts as his strong willpower, otherwise he would have taken action long ago. Bai Yingying rolled her eyes. She was too lazy to say more, because she didn't want to take action. Then I won't be polite. Zhang Zizai really wanted to try what it felt like to seize the fire. If his guess was correct, he should defeat the opponent. This is absolutely the minimum. Whatever you want. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Under his pressure, these two people actually spoke with such an attitude, not taking him in their eyes at all. Bai Yunjing became even more angry. He was usually in a stable mood, but at this time, his heart was burning. His eyes were locked on Zhang Zizai, and there was already murderous intent in his sight. In this sea of black smoke and fire, Bai Yunjing said no more, and suddenly attacked, and the first attack was the 4th level of the initial God realm. Be careful, his totem is the sky-supporting divine tree totem. Bai Yingying was still a little worried about Zhang Zizai. Before the voice was finished, Zhang Zizai had flashed away and killed Bai Yunjing directly. This was not the first time to deal with the 4th level of the initial God realm. Zhang Zizai was already familiar with it when he attacked. The killing god's mysterious weapon in his hand turned into a boxing glove and wrapped around a pair of fists. Under the sky-supporting divine tree totem, Bai Yunjing attracted the power of the trees between heaven and earth, but he was not very lucky. This was a sea of black smoke and fire, not a magic forest, so his combat effectiveness here was discounted. Even so, when his totem and the power of the source of heaven are revealed, it can still be found that he is stronger than the previous Benji and Swafu. Under the control of his totem, his power of the source of heaven condensed into green branches and vines, with a number of tens of thousands. Those branches and vines drilled directly from the ground, forming a prison-like field, spreading wildly towards Zhang Zizai and hitting him. Once Zhang Zizai is bound by a branch and vine transformed by the power of the source of heaven, then in a short period of time, the power of the source of heaven may wrap around Zhang Zizai thousands of times, making him completely unable to move. In this cage, Bai Yunjing is like a jungle god of war, holding the top-level dry-level totem magic weapon Xian Tiankong wood spear, shuttling through the black smoke and sea of fire, as if any branch and vine can be transformed into his body. When he suddenly appeared and kept flashing around Zhang Zizai, a strong sense of crisis had already enveloped Zhang Zizai's body. The suppression formed by the opponent's totem and the power of the source of heaven is indeed extraordinary. Lowly people should roll back to the lowly place. Bai Yunjing looked disdainful, his face cold. The moment he approached Zhang Zizai in the countless green phantoms, Zhang Zizai directly burst out with the power to deal with Benji and Swafu. The majestic lightning power burst out like a flood, forming countless black lightning and thunder, which directly engulfed Bai Yunjing's domain. He still had oppressive power to deal with two fourth-level beginners, let alone now. With a move of the Great Chaos Thunder Demon Fist, no matter where the opponent is, Zhang Zizai will use the power of the Destruction Heaven Source to shatter the entire domain created by his totem, and naturally destroy Bai Yunjing. Zzz. The lightning and thunder collided like a storm, and the Great Chaos Thunder Demon Fist directly tore everything created by Bai Yunjing. I'm afraid that Bai Yunjing hasn't reacted yet, and Zhang Zizi's sudden burst of power completely conquered him. After the thunder burst out and suppressed, Bai Yunjing retreated step by step. His branches and vines could still withstand Zhang Zizai's thunderstorm, which was already very good. However, at this time, Zhang Zizai directly changed the Killing God's black weapon into a longsword and directly used the 3000 galaxies of the Star God Sword Manual. The 3000 sword chi surged, like the Milky Way falling from the sky, and suppressed Bai Yunjing again, whose face changed miserably. Bai Yunjing was already in a hurry to descend, and was completely suppressed by the power of the source of destruction. At this time, he collapsed completely, allowing the galaxy sword chi and the power of the source of destruction to enter his body. No matter how much protection he had, it was broken one after another at this time. He cried out in pain, and his internal organs and bones were damaged. The whole person fell softly to the ground. During this process, a black fire ran out of his body and appeared in front of Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai did not hesitate at all. When he opened his mouth slightly, the fire went directly into his mouth and merged with his fire. His mouth became even hotter, and the burning pain was always there. But there was no doubt that Bai Yunjing had been defeated. Zhang Zizai lowered his head slightly and saw that he was looking at him in disbelief, trembling all over. He didn't know whether it was anger or fear. The heavy injuries all over his body told him that if Zhang Zizai wanted to kill him, he could do it now. How can you have such strength? Bai Yunjing struggled to get up. Bai Yingying was standing behind him. He didn't dare to look back, afraid to see the look in Bai Yingying's eyes looking at him now. His face was extremely miserable now, and there was only despair in his heart, and he even had the urge to die. The fire has been obtained, and Bai Yunjing, who has been pestering Bai Yingying, has also paid the price. Zhang Zizai is too lazy to waste time on him. You defeated General, shut up quickly, and don't bother Yingying anymore, Zhang Zizai said with a teasing smile. Bai Yunjing had 10,000 angers, but now he had to take them back. He was so upset that he even walked frivolously. Such a miserable defeat made it impossible for him to move forward from this fallen valley. Let's go, Zhang Zizai said to Bai Yingying, who was still stunned. Bai Yingying was still a little stunned. She didn't expect that the battle would end so quickly. Bai Yunjing, who she couldn't deal with at all, was crushed and defeated by him. What else can this guy do? She couldn't help but feel infinite curiosity. The two gathered together, and Bai Yunjing fell to the ground with a serious injury. He could only look at their strength. His appearance was naturally as miserable as it could be. Zhang Zizai hadn't taken 2 steps when something unexpected happened. This was something he had never expected. A fatal feeling made his scalp numb, as if he had touched death directly. It was a breath of despair that instantly engulfed him. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 762. When he turned around with the quickest reaction, he vaguely seemed to see a ray of cyan light suddenly penetrate into his eyes. He felt that it could penetrate him immediately and turn him into ashes. This simple green light actually contains a fatal threat. Zhang Zizai had no idea what this was, let alone where it came from. When this fatal threat suddenly arrived in front of him, the demonic cauldron was directly passively activated. Zhang Zizai had never seen the demonic cauldron fully manifest. Come out and hide him in the center of the cauldron. Even so, When the green light hit the Demon Lord's cauldron, Zhang Zizai still felt a bone-chilling feeling, and at the same time there was an indescribable power. At least this power made the Demon Lord's cauldron hit it for the first time. There was a clang on the ground, and it almost felt like cracks. Zhang Ziyu was also hit to pieces, and his head was almost broken. The Demon Lord cauldron was beaten to such an extent. It can only be said that the attack just now was too strong, and it didn't look like Bai Yunjing's revenge at all. When the Demon Lord cauldron was hidden, Zhang Zizai suddenly turned around and saw only Bai Yunjing lying on the ground blankly looking at him, with no one else around him. Who attacked us? Bai Yingying was also frightened and broke into a cold sweat. For a moment, she thought that she and Zhang Zizai were already dead. I don't know, it's not Bai Yunjing, let's go first. Zhang Zizai immediately made a judgment. The other party is a being that can pose a great threat to the Demon Lord cauldron. Since he has been targeted, he must take advantage of the opportunity. It's time to leave quickly. Zhang Zizi was a little confused. He was wondering who this attack came from. With the sea of black smoke and fire all around, he would definitely not be able to detect the existence of that person. Bai Yunjing had been completely thrown away, but he felt as if the crisis had just appeared. What he didn't know was that there were 3 people standing very high in the sea of black smoke and fire. Everything that just happened was under their control. The ancient god Zhou Lingxian said in surprise, if I read it correctly, he is definitely a god-level totem weapon. It is really not easy for this little guy to be recognized by a god-level totem weapon. With this treasure, he is almost invincible. It's a place of defeat. When it comes to controlling god-level totem weapons, there are only 3 people in the entire Fallen Valley. Bai Qinghua's face looked a little ugly and said, no wonder he has such abilities. It turns out that he has the inheritance of a god-level totem weapon. If I read correctly, he should be the treasure of an ancient demon. I don't know this person. It was stolen from some demon tomb. Even if it is a theft, he has already recognized his master, which means that the baby has recognized him as his master. He will automatically protect his master. It seems that in the men's group, this boy has a slight chance. Zhou Lingxian praised. Bai Qinghua pursed his lips and didn't say much, but there was a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Brother Bai, let me digress. In the examination at the God King's palace, as far as I know, you were the first to attack a participant in the war for the sake of your own relatives and almost killed them. Zhou Lingxian said with a meaningful smile. What did you say? There are some words that cannot be said indiscriminately, Bai Qinghua said coldly. Haha, I was just kidding, no need to be nervous. Zhou Lingxian patted his shoulder, saying nothing. What you've done is what you've done. There's nothing to hide. Just don't let me see it a second time. In that case, I won't be polite, Xuanhuan said suddenly. She seemed to be smiling, but in fact it gave people a very strange feeling. Danger. I know, Bai Qinghua said. Zhou Lingxian smiled. Do you think this boy has hope? Xuanhuan asked Zhou Lingxian. If you can make good use of that treasure, it's possible, Zhou Lingxian said. It's a pity that the most important test is not just defense. Otherwise, he would really be able to take advantage of this loophole, Xuanhuan said. Zhou Lingxian didn't say much, that's because he knew that Xuanhuan must have a seed player that she thought, and Zhang Zizai came through halfway, so she wasn't very interested in knowing. The 3 of them quickly disappeared into the darkness, quietly, but in fact, everything in the Fall Valley was still under their control, because they were godlike existences, and there was no god in the Fall Valley. Things that can't be accomplished. In fact, outside the Valley of the Fall, it is also very lively now. Not long ago, more than 200,000 people disappeared, and now more than 100,000 people have gathered here. These people are not new arrivals, but are here. The young people who were directly eliminated from the Storm Road and the Psychedelic Forest. It seems that if the storm path is swept a few times, it will be swept out directly. After losing the God King's order, there will be no chance to enter again. In the psychedelic forest, basically as long as they are confused, they will not only fight each other and disturb their minds, but they will also come out of the Valley of the Fall. By the time they come out, it will be too late. The probability of elimination in this assessment is very high. Even if there are still people left, most people are gathered in the storm road. They no longer dare to go forward, and most people are cautious. There are actually very few people scattered in the sea of black smoke and fire of the third test. Now, these more than 100,000 people who have been eliminated and have no hope at all have not left. They turn to the other side. There is a huge lake in front of this position. The lake is full of black water. The water looks, it seems, quiet, but in fact the reflections above are all black flames, as if the sea of black smoke and fire is above the lake. More than 100,000 people were looking at the details of the Black Lake. If you look closely, you can see many figures on the lake. If you look carefully, you can tell who they are, such as the figures of Zhang Zizai and Bai Yingying. Many people have seen them on the lake, including Qilian, Xuanhuan, and Lan Kexi, who were very unlucky and had already come out of the falling valley. They just watched a battle and saw Zhang Zizai crush Bai Yunjing and take Bai Yingying away. Until 10 breaths later, their expressions were dull. This is too exaggerated. When did he become so powerful? I don't know. Do we feel like we are shooting ourselves in the foot? We just drove away a wolf, and a new one came immediately, and it's even more difficult. They had a headache. But when they saw Yi Zhongyuan, Yan Qing, and others looking at the figures on the lake, each of them showing an expression like they had eaten dog shit, they were still very relieved. The rest is before 11:30.